things up and somehow it wasn't saving the settings. Okay, there we go. All right. So, as we usually do, we're going to chant first. And we'll chant one of my favorite songs first. And today we're going to finish up the Caitanya Bhagavat and go on to another literature, which I think we're going to do the Bhajan Rahasya as our next literature, which is a book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur dealing with the Shikshashka by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and corroborating each verse of the Shikshashka with different times of the Lord's day, and also corroborating each verse of the Shikshashka with different levels of advancement and how to approach each verse of the Shikshashka. Okay. All right. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Tulsi Devi, Tulsi Devi, Jai Tulsi Devi, Tulsi Devi, Hari Bol.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shimani Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Charni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to try, while we are here in the United States, to have our regular classes at this particular time, which is 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and it's a pretty good time for Australia and New Zealand, a terrible time for Europe, but for the rest of the world, it's a very good time. So, with that in mind, today what we're going to do is finish the Caitanya Bhagavat, because we just left a small section over when we were doing our classes several months ago. And then tomorrow, hopefully, we will start with the book called the Bhajan Rahasya, which is a book by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, dealing with the Shikshashtaka and the different levels of devotional service corresponding to the different verses of the Shikshashtaka and the different times of the day and how, Krishna's day, sorry, not our day, and how to, let's say, internalize and take each verse of the Shikshashtaka as a practical guidance in our own lives, our own sadhana, and whatever else we're doing throughout the day. Okay, so with that in mind, we are going to complete the Caitanya Bhagavat. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Okay, let's share the screen. And it's here somewhere. There we go. All right. It's working. So, let me just put the chat window to the side. Okay. So, basically, we left off in the middle of the story about Pundarik Vijayanidhi, and Pundarik Vijayanidhi is going to have a very interesting interaction with Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and he's going to reveal his mind to Swarup Damodar Goswami in this final episode. So, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, of course, is Rishabhanu. He is an incarnation of Srimati Radharani's father. And then, of course, Swarup Damodar Goswami is the incarnation of Lalita Devi. So we left off with verse 102 in this last chapter of the Antya Lila of the Caitanya Bhagavat. Okay? So, with this in mind, let's start. And we're just going to read the English like we've been doing before. So, this is talking about both of them together, Swarup Damodar Goswami and Pundarik Vijayanidhi. They would both disclose their minds to each other without hesitation. So, after seeing Lord Jagannath wearing starched cloth, Pundarik Vijayanidhi develops some doubt. So what does that mean? There's a particular ceremony each year in which they offer Lord Jagannath new cloth. And Pundarik Vijayanidhi was very upset because starched clothes are very uncomfortable to wear. Anyone who's worn clothes that have been starched without being washed first, it's very uncomfortable. So, he asked Swarup Damodar, why do they offer starched dress to Lord Jagannath? The Shrutis and Smritis are widely accepted in this place, so why is starched cloth offered before it is washed? Swarup Damodar replied, please listen, there's no fault in this because this is the custom of the place. Persons who know the Shrutis and Smritis may not observe this festival, but here it has always been observed in this way. If this was not the desire of Lord Jagannath, then why hasn't the king stopped it? Pundarik Vijayanidhi said, the Lord may do as he likes, but why do the servants imitate the activities of the Lord? Why do the priests, the pujaris, the temple superintendents, and servants touch the unwashed clothes? Lord Jagannath is the supreme controller. For him everything is possible. But how can others imitate his activities? If one touches starched cloth, he should wash his hands to purify himself. Why don't such learned persons follow this injunction? In other words, I guess starched clothes are considered impure too for some reason. The government officers are ignorant because they do not consider this. The king even wraps this starched cloth on his head. Damodar Swarup replied, please listen, my dear brother. I think there is no fault in this Odana festival. The Supreme Brahman is incarnated as the deity of Lord Jagannath. Therefore, rules and regulations do not apply to him. Pundarik Vijayanidhi said, please listen, brother. The deity of Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Brahman in all respects. He is not at fault, even if he violates the rules and regulations. But have all these others become Brahman by staying in Nilachal? They have given up proper etiquette and have become like incarnations of the Supreme Brahman. In other words, very proud. They think they're God. While speaking in this way, they laughed and again as they walked down the road. The two friends held each other's hands and laughed as they discussed whether Lord Jagannath's servants were at fault. No one can understand the glories of the Lord's servants. Only Krishna knows their attachment for him. Sometimes Krishna bewilders his devotee, and then, feeling compassion for him, he destroys that illusion. First the Lord bewildered Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Now you will hear how the Lord destroyed his illusion. In this way, the two intimate friends went to their residences to perform their Krishna-conscious duties. After taking their meals, they went to Gauranga's residence for some time. Then they returned to their residences and took rest. In his form as Lord Jagannath, the omniscient Lord Caitanya appeared before Pundarik Vijayanidhi in a dream. Vijayanidhi saw Lord Jagannath and Balaram appear before him in his dream. Vijayanidhi saw Lord Jagannath catch hold of him and slap his face in an angry mood. The two brothers, Jagannath and Balarama, slapped him on his cheek so hard that his swollen face bore impressions of their fingers. Feeling distress, Vijayanidhi fell at their feet and prayed, Krishna, save me! Forgive my offenses. Yeah, I'll read the purport. As a result of Vijayanidhi's finding fault with the behavior of Jagannath's servants, Sri Jagannath and Sri Balaram appeared in a dream before Vijayanidhi and profusely slapped him on the face. Vijayanidhi asked Kanai and Balai, that's Krishna and Balaram, why they were unnecessarily punishing him. What was his offense? When his offense was disclosed, he begged pardon from them. O Lord, for what offense are you beating me? The Lord replied, there is no end to your offenses. I do not belong to any caste, and my servants also do not belong to any caste. You should have learned this while staying here. Why then are you staying in a place where you will lose your caste? If you want to protect your caste, you better go home. In other words, because you're so proud of your caste. You don't belong in Jagannath Puri. I have inaugurated the traditional observance of this festival. How then can you think that there is any improper behavior in it? You accept me as the Supreme Brahman, but you offend my servants by finding fault in their dressing me with starched cloth. Vijayanidhi felt great fear. He therefore placed his head at the lotus feet of the Lord and cried, Please forgive the offenses of this most sinful person. I am defeated. I apologize. O Lord, with this mouth I have laughed at your servants, so you have now properly punished that mouth. This is the auspicious beginning of a new day, for my face and forehead were touched by your lotus hand. The Lord replied, I have punished you to bestow mercy on you. for I consider you my servant." In this way, the two brothers, Jagannath and Balaram, mercifully glanced at Premaniti in his dream and then returned to their temple. After seeing this dream, Pundarik Vijayanidhi woke up. Then he saw the slap marks on his cheeks and began to laugh. In other words, not only in a dream was Pundarik Vijayanidhi getting beaten by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in real, well, it's all real, but in the external world, the world that we know, his cheeks were affected by the chastisement. So he was laughing, and he was laughing in gratitude. His cheeks were swollen from the slapping of the lotus hands of the Supreme Lord. Seeing this, Premaniti said, "This is very good. I have received punishment for my offense, yet the Lord has mercifully awarded me only a token punishment. Just see the glories of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. This is the limit of the Lord's mercy on his devotees." The Lord did not slap even his own son Prajuna to teach him in this way. The Lord's associates and consorts like Janaki, Rukmini, and Satyabhama, as well as the various gods and goddesses, are directly punished if they commit an offense. But to receive the Lord's mercy by being punished in a dream is rarely seen. Someone who receives punishment or wealth in a dream has nothing to show for it when he wakes up. But if the Lord punishes or bestows mercy on someone in a dream, the results are seen by everyone. There is no one so fortunate in this world, for the Lord does not speak to non-devotees even in their dreams. By analyzing this incident, one can directly understand that because the Yavanas engage in blasphemy and violence, they can never see the Lord in their dreams, even if they want to. What to speak of Yavanas? Even respectable Brahmanas who constantly commit offenses attain miseries in this life and in the next as a result of their offenses. Yet the Lord does not teach such sinful non-devotees in their dreams. A person who receives instructions from the Lord in a dream considers himself most fortunate. Evidence of the mercy Sri Premaniti received when he was beaten by the Lord in a dream could be seen by everyone. When Pundarik Vijayanidhi got up in the morning, he could feel with his hands that his cheeks were swollen. Swarup Damodar would come every day, and the two would go together to see Lord Jagannath. When Swarup Damodar came as he did regularly, he began to speak to Vijayanidhi. "Every morning you come with me to see Jagannath. Why haven't you gotten up yet today?" Vijayanidhi replied, "Oh brother, please come and sit down, and I will explain everything." When Swarup Damodar came near, he saw that Pundarik Vijayanidhi's cheeks were swollen with slap marks. Swarup Damodar asked him, "What is this? Why are your cheeks swollen? Did you get hurt?" Pundarik Vijayanidhi smiled and said, "Please listen, brother. All my doubts were vanquished last night. Look at my cheeks and see the evidence of the punishment I received because of criticizing the offering of starched clothes to Lord Jagannath. Last night, Lord Jagannath and Balaram appeared before me in a dream and continually slapped me for 2 dandas. That's about 48 minutes. They both slapped my cheeks while saying, 'You've criticized the clothes we wear. See the marks of their fingers on my cheeks.' I was unable to pacify them. I am too embarrassed to speak to anyone. I will go out only after my cheeks become normal. It is not proper to tell others about this incident. O brother, in my heart, I consider myself most fortunate. I have received a proper punishment for my offense. Otherwise I would have fallen into a blind well." Seeing the Lord's affection towards Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Swarup Damodar floated in ecstasy as one becomes happy upon seeing the good fortune of a friend. The two both laughed in great happiness. Damodar Swarup said, "Listen, my brother, I have never heard about or seen such a wonderful punishment. The Lord appeared in a dream and personally punished you. I have never before heard of such a thing, but I can directly see that you have been punished." In this way, the two friends floated in happiness and forgot whether it was day or night, as they continually enjoyed topics of Krishna. Long purport. Such was the influence of Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Lord Gaurachandra would address him as father, because Pundarik Vijayanidhi was Rishabhanu, who is Srimati Radharani's father. Pundarik Vijayanidhi would not take the bath in the Ganges in fear of touching her with his feet. He would simply take darshan of the Ganges and drink the water. Wow. That's devotion. Actually, I feel the same way about Radhakund. I definitely will not go into Radhakund because I don't want to touch Radhakund with my feet. So I guess I have a good predecessor, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, who also would agree with me. And he wouldn't even go into the Ganges. What to speak of Radhakund. Lord Gauranga would cry profusely and call out the name of this devotee, O Father Pundarika. Whoever hears the characteristics of Pundarik Vijayanidhi will certainly achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. That's a Shruti Pala. You're getting that benediction because we've all heard about the characteristics of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Accepting Sri Caitanya Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends the English translation of the Gaudiya Pasha of Sri Caitanya Bhagavat, Antya Kanda, Chapter 10, entitled Glories of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. End of Sri Srimad Vrindavan Das Thakur's Sri Caitanya Bhagavat. The pastimes of Panchatattva are most enchanting. Sri Gaurasundar is the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Nityananda is his personal manifestation. Advaita is his separate expansion. Gadadhar is his energy. They are the supreme deliverers of the fallen souls. They are most dear to Sri Gaurakishora, and they are the ultimate goal of the fallen souls. Srivas's brother had a daughter named Narayani, who was the author's mother. Her mind was fixed at the lotus feet of Vishwambara. Her son was Vrindavan Das, who was unlimitedly merciful, who compiled Sri Caitanya Bhagavat, who was the last servant of Nityananda, and who revealed that service to the devotees of Hari is the essence of all. He perfectly described the incomparable glories of the Vaishnavas. The minds of those who are averse to the Vaishnavas are always disturbed by the material miseries. Such persons are as worthless as ash. Vrindavan Das considered the people averse to Nitai were suitable candidates for compassion, so he kicked them in the head. There is no one out in the three worlds as greatly compassionate or sober as him, for he delivers such persons from material existence. Foolish people, intoxicated by false ego, cannot understand him, so they attempt to establish him as an angry person. The hypocrites hide their own low-class mentality and can never understand the punishment awarded by a Vaishnava, which is simply an exhibition of compassion. In the course of writing this commentary, Sri Gaudiya Basha, with the desire to serve the devotees, I have rejected all forms of cheating headed by duplicity. While writing this commentary on Caitanya Bhagavat, the Lord always maintained me and gave me the necessary strength of heart. Because this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is speaking. Srila Bhaktivinoda would always say that Sri Caitanya Bhagavat describes the process of pure devotional service. By constantly studying this book, one's sinful mentality is destroyed, and one will achieve the joy of ecstatic love for Krishna. The desire to satisfy one's senses has no place in devotional service. There's no question of sense gratification in the service of Vaishnavas. As a result of serving the devotees, one attains prema, the most valuable asset, and all material diseases are vanquished. The desire to merge in the existence of the Lord is as crooked as plain dice, for it deprives one of all auspiciousness. The gross and subtle bodies of a person expert in the worship of the Bhagavatas, that's devotees, are destroyed by the strength of his devotional service. The writer of this commentary is Sri Varshabhanavi Daitaya Das. It means the mercy of Radharani, servant of the mercy of Radharani, who desires to attain Sri Varshabhanavi Radharani, and who is the servant of her beloved Lord. Although he is averse to devotional service and his mind is attached to material enjoyment, he begs for the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur again, exhibiting his extreme humility. Sri Caitanya Math is situated within Shri Gora Wonderla in Mayapur, Navadvip, the topmost tirtha and site of Gora's appearance. No cheaters are residing therein. Only Gora's devotees live there. I always reside in the association of Srila Bhaktivinoda's servants. Accepting their order on my head, I completed this commentary on the hill of Utka Mund at the end of the month of Jaishta in the Gaurava year 446, which is 1932. Yeah, 1932. Wow, before my birth. While writing this commentary, the devotees took care of me and deceived me with awe and respect. They bound me with ropes, with ropes of affection, by always providing facilities for me and encouraging me in my devotional service. May my mind always remain fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga's devotees, like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. May my mind always remain fixed in eternal service, as it was while writing this commentary as the servant of the Tridandi sannyasis. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. So that's the end of the Caitanya Bhagavat. So let's stop sharing and guess we can take some questions. Hold on a second. I have to unmute people. So tomorrow, we'll just make this announcement again before we take questions. Tomorrow, we're hopefully going to continue with these classes, and we're hoping to start with the Bhajan Rahasya. The Bhajan Rahasya, Rahasya means like secret of bhajans, Bhajan Rahasya. How secret to be success, not that bhajans are secret, or worship of Krishna is secret. So what's the secret to advance quickly in devotional service, and what are the different stages in devotional service, and how do those stages relate to different verses in the Shikshashtaka, and how can we understand in a deeper way each verse of the Shikshashtaka, and how each one of the verses of the Shikshashtaka refer to a different time in the Lord's day, the Lord's pastimes. Because this is not an intimate book. It doesn't deal with the details of the intimate pastimes of the Lord, but just a very, very quick description of what happens during each time of the Lord's day. That's called the Ashta Kaliya Lila. And so that's what we will start tomorrow. I'm not going to start today because I want people to be aware of what we're doing and be ready for tomorrow. So here's one question. How do we develop the mood of Vijayanidhi and feel happy when we receive Krishna's punishments instead of complaining? How can you tell the difference between a mundane dream and a dream where Krishna is punishing you or sending a sign? Okay, that's a good question. I'll take the second part of the question first. How can we tell? Well, if Krishna appears in a dream, that's very easy. That's Krishna punishing us or Krishna teaching us a lesson. Sometimes if we have bad dreams, that is something that's very painful, scary, or something like that, That's an indication that Krishna is actually giving us a token reaction for our sinful activities. So instead of us having to suffer externally, let's say we have a dream where our head is cut off. So instead of having your head cut off externally, because I don't know how much you'd suffer, because once your head's cut off, I guess you go to Yamraj and suffer. But instead of having your head cut off externally, then you'll have a dream of that happening. So that's a minimization. So in many cases, these dreams where a devotee is suffering in the dream or scary in the dream or whatever, it's Krishna reducing what you'd have to actually suffer for. Of course, if one is taking responsibility for other devotees, like if one's a guru or something like that, Krishna may be showing you the seriousness of your accepting other people's karma. So the Prabhupada said the guru may have to suffer in dreams. So sometimes it's like that. But in any case, when we have a dream that's unpleasant, then we should, so I'm answering, I guess both parts of the question. When we have a dream that's unpleasant, we should try to understand why that dream is occurring. It also may be just due to our past samskaras or impressions that we have, and it's not really sent by Krishna as a punishment or as a message or anything like that. It may be just like heck, it may be just it may be just due to your past life impressions or past impressions from this life, and you're just like putting them all together, or something that happened during the day that's scary or something like that. So one has to think carefully about the dream. It takes a little introspective. Did I do something recently that subjected me to this sort of punishment or this sort of dream? And what was it? One has to be humble enough, like Pundarik Vijayanidhi was. He was humble. He didn't get angry with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the point. We have to cultivate humility. In that way, we answer the first part of your question. How can we feel happy when we receive Krishna's punishments instead of complaining? Because Krishna is giving them to us for a specific purpose, and that purpose is always his compassion upon us. Like Krishna slapping Pundarik Vijayanidhi was based upon Krishna's compassion for Pundarik Vijayanidhi. It wasn't based. Krishna doesn't punish people out of retribution. We had a talk about this the other day in class. Someone was giving class and they were talking about retributive justice versus restorative justice, something that I've studied quite a bit. So generally, in a country like America or other countries, you have this retributive justice where you try to make someone suffer because they cause someone else to suffer. But Krishna, when he gives justice to someone, it is not because of retribution, getting even. Retribution basically means getting even with someone. I'm going to teach you a lesson. You made me suffer. I'm going to make you suffer. No, Krishna's punishment, even if it is causing suffering for someone, is to solely 100% motivated by a desire to help the person. Help everybody involved, but actually help the person who's receiving the punishment. So just think, whatever Krishna is doing to me is for me. Actually, it's an interesting statement. Whatever Krishna does to me is for me. Okay? I made that up. Okay, so that answers the first question. There's another question here. Where do we find a copy of the book which you are starting tomorrow? That's a good question. Very good question. I think I'm going to be using, well, I don't think, I know I'm going to be using Banu Maharaj's translation. And so I think you'd have to buy it. You have to buy the book, go on Amazon or something like that. I don't know if it's available on the internet. I mean, I have an e-copy of it, but because he gave it to me with the instruction not to give out that copy to others, so I can't really share the copy. I can have a copy on the screen, which is what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I can't give that copy out to other people because he gave me e-copies. Banamars, who is my dear godbrother and a super intellectual as well as a super devotee and completely dedicated to Prabhupada's mission, has translated probably about 40 or 50, or maybe even more books from Sanskrit and Bengali. So his books are available for order. I'm not sure if that book's been published or not. Anyway, so you can somehow or other find a copy of it. But at least I'll have it on the screen so you can read along with me. Okay, nice questions. Okay, and of course the Caitanya Bhagavat, which we just finished reading, is available in the Bhaktivedanta database, which is freely available. You can download it from the internet, the Bhaktivedanta database, and it can only be utilized on, well, there's an Android version of it, and as well as an iPhone version, and it can only be utilized on a computer, Windows computer, or actually an Apple computer too, if you run Parallels or something like that on the Apple computer. Okay, a little bit of computer information for you. So, does anybody else have any questions before we end? Otherwise, we can end a little early. And tomorrow we will start Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we gave a class, or a series of classes on the Bhajan Rahasya many years ago in New Goloka. It's not available on the internet. That's because it was before we had internet, or at least before I was broadcasting on the internet. So any other questions? You could raise your hand or type in the chat window if you have a question.
I have a question, Gurudev.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how when Krishna punishes us, it's always out of love for our benefit. And so, of course, we can see every difficult experience in life as Krishna's punishment and for our benefit. But when it comes to practical dealings with jiva souls, how do we distinguish when something is abusive and when it's actually being done out of love and in terms of our relationship with that person?
That's a good question. I hope you have full self-driving on.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, but still pay attention on the road, to the road.
Oh, don't worry, I am. The car punishes me. Speaking of punishment, the car punishes me if I don't stare at the road.
Yeah, you have to keep your eyes on the road. So, how do we distinguish? Phew. Well, we have to know the person. It's very hard to distinguish between when someone is acting in such a way as to stimulate our pain, whether they're doing it out of compassion and love, or whether they're doing it because of their own particular issues, their own particular needs. I would assume, I don't want to assume anything. I was going to say, if they're a pure devotee or highly advanced devotee, it's out of compassion. And if they're not, I can't say it's simply because they're just mean. Because a parent could want the best thing for their child, and they're just like punishing. So one has to really understand someone's motives. And the question, of course, then I'm just uh, backtracking a little bit, but because how can you understand someone's motive is the next question, and that's difficult. That's difficult. And I think you have to know a person, analyze things, think about things. That's a very difficult question to answer. How can you tell? Uh, Now, like I said, if they're great devotees, it's easy to tell. They're doing it out of compassion. Like Prabhupada, I was just listening to a memory the other day that it was a Shruta Kirti memory where he spilled the mustard oil, and Prabhupada really let him have it. Prabhupada just said, uh, "You won't become intelligent until you're 80 years old." And Prabhupada was silent. Prabhupada gave Shrutakirti Prabhu the silent treatment for until he finished the massage. Of course, even before that, Prabhupada had to show him how to pick the mustard seed oil off the floor, which Prabhupada personally did and demonstrated to Shrutakirti. And Shrutakirti was just like shaking and just like anxiety. And then after the whole thing was finished, he had the courage to say something to Prabhupada. He said, "Prabhupada, I guess I have to wait until I'm 80 years old and then I'll be intelligent." And Prabhupada started laughing. So, anyway. So Prabhupada's chastisement was really just to help Shrutakirti with both his devotional mood and his attention to detail, so you don't knock over oil, mustard seed oil. So, but Prabhupada's a pure devotee, and someone who's not pure may not have the purest motives, and the person may be doing it to get even or his own personal issues and needs. So it's really hard to understand unless you know someone very, very well. So thank you for your question. Sorry I couldn't give like a checklist there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Drive carefully.
Thank you.
Okay, and next one is Gopal. You
Please
can
accept my obeisance to Shri Gurudev.
semi blessings.
You just mentioned about understanding others' motives.
Yeah.
Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where someone does something that seems maybe not 100% correct. And then we think to ourselves, well, we should correct them or we shouldn't correct them. And then we make a decision to do so or not. We don't even understand our own motives, but to speak of being able to understand the motives of others.
Yeah.
So at least we're closer to our own brains. How can we determine if our motives are pure or not?
Well, that's quite easy. You read my book about empathic communication. You understand that motives, thoughts, emotions, they all come from needs met or unmet. Okay, got it. So then one analyzes, this is what I usually do, try to do, before acting or speaking or writing or sending an email. I think, what is my motivation? Is it, am I acting just because I'm tired and just lashing out at everything, or I'm acting because I just want this person to suffer? Anyway. And then I understand why I am motivated like that by connecting with a need that's met or unmet. like I have a need to rest or something like that. So I'm pretty good at that. And then I think, based upon my experience with the person, uh, such a priya hitam, which those are words usually. That's how I react usually with words. I don't react with a stick. I think what's beneficial for the person based upon my experience with the person, even though I don't know the person's motives, nor is it that important at that particular point. But what is most beneficial to the person, that's hitam in Sanskrit. And then based on that, I just either act or don't act or act in a different way. And so it takes a little bit of introspection and planning and strategic thinking, and all you have to do this all in the space of 1 minute or less, or 2 minutes if you're lucky. Okay, good question.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, it's almost time to end, and tomorrow at the same time we will have this class in the Bhajan Rahasya, the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I thought it would be a very nice book. It's easy to understand. It's not a very complex book. There's not a lot of things to memorize. You can, to prepare for this, if you want to read the Shikshashtaka every morning here in Nugaloka, we recite the Shikshashtaka both in Sanskrit and in English. And these are the verses given to us by Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Some people say they're the only written verses that Caitanya Mahaprabhu left us. And the essence of Krishna consciousness within these verses. You can also read the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which deals with the Shikshashtaka. Okay? In which Prabhupada gives very unique translations to the Shikshashtaka verses that are completely different than the translations, not completely, but very much different from the translations that we're accustomed to. Okay, on that happy note, we will see everybody tomorrow. All glories to Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada